Hi, everyone. My name is Joshua Spiro, and I'm the Vice President of Sales for the Northeastern United States and Canada here at EDB. I want to thank you for your time today. Thank you for joining us as you learn more about EDB's remote DBA service. Here at EDB, we pride ourselves on being the Postgres company. For over 20 years, EDB has been the leader in Postgres SQL. We've contributed upwards of 30% of the code that runs in free community Postgres that millions of people, including yourself, benefit from and enjoy today. EDB has the most contributors to the development and success of Postgres than any other organization on the planet. We also supercharge Postgres and offer features, functionality, and support to enable companies to successfully carry out critical initiatives, such as the following: migrating data from incredibly expensive big name vendors to recognize significant cost savings on Postgres, achieving 5 nines of high availability on critical applications running on Postgres, securing data with enterprise grade solutions like transparent data encryption, running and maintaining hybrid environments consisting of on-prem, public, and private cloud configurations, leveraging intelligent technologies like Kubernetes and vector databases, and this is the cherry on top, we're working on some revolutionary initiatives around data and AI that we can't wait to share with the world very soon. Now, as mentioned earlier today, we will be discussing EDB's remote DBA service and why it is loved and used by so many organizations who view the offering as critical to their success. I do want to note that we will be taking questions at the end of this discussion, so please make sure you come up with some questions and that you enter them into the chat. With that, I'm very excited to introduce one of my peers, Kanchan Mohite, Global Senior Director, Managed Support Services at EDB. Good morning, Kanchan. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Josh. Good morning, everyone, wherever you are joining from. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're joining from. I am thrilled to be part of this conversation, and most specifically, having an opportunity to talk to Mitch Baker, a seasoned system administrator who brings over 30 years of experience in Linux and Unix environment, starting with a solid foundation in United States Air Force. Mitch then transitioned to government contracting and private industry, specifically focused on the security practices, right? Throughout his career, he's not only excelled in system administration, but also managed an array of database technologies, including Sybase, DB2, Oracle, Ingress, MySQL, Postgres, DPAS3. So to just name a few, the expertise is more of a testament to the evolution of the database management systems over the decades. For past 10 years, he's been part of the Office of Technology Services at Indiana Legislative Agency in the state of Indiana. So notably, he has spearheaded the Postgres deployment for the agency, and obviously with EDB and specifically the remote DBA team by his side, guiding through the transition from SV and MySQL repository to more robust and scalable Postgres system. Mitch is more of a power user of Postgres and some of the ecosystem tools. His PEM expertise at an advanced level, which I've never seen with any of our customers. He believes in continuous learning and attends various conferences, specifically Postgres conferences, interact with EDB folks, gain knowledge. And based on the sessions, he tries to check internally what works and what doesn't. So I am thrilled. Let's dive into the insights and expertise of a seasoned professional and who has not only witnessed but also shaped the transition or transformation of technology within the public sector. So welcome, Mitch. Really excited to talk with you and Josh today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Mitch, she called you a power user. I think with hair like yours, that's a given, right?
Of course. Of course.
We appreciate you being here, Mitch. Kanchan, I'm going to give you a softball to start this discussion off. I like you. You're a friend of mine. I'm going to give you a softball. What are
I
some
appreciate
common
that.
All right, let's do it. What are some common issues that are found in Postgres? And how does our DBA help with those issues, whether it's monitoring or maintaining the database performance? How do we help?
Perfect. So let's start with I like to call remote DBA services and more like a 3M for your database. Monitor, manage, and maintain your databases is what remote DBA team does. It's more of a premium management, so it's not just monitoring to ensure you have your database up and running or the replication is progressing is progressing well, or your applications are connected and have access to the database. Is more, it also ensures the remediation actions, where the monitoring invokes some kind of alert, and we need to and things start going south. So if the monitoring prevents that and make sure the if something has to happen, the remediation actions, the team jumps into it and remediation actions are taken care of, right? RDBA team, basically RDBA, the remote DBA team, we call it RDBA, maintains the production system optimally at all times. I mean, that's a given. Uh, would Whether it's monitoring, whether it's gathering the trends, whether it's doing capacity planning, whether it's constantly doing performance optimization, because obviously the database size always keeps on growing. We all know that, right? So the performance gremlins are going to tend to creep up, whether you like it or not. It's always there. So constantly identify and resolving that threat when it comes in is more the operational support that the remote DBA team provides comes with it. And to answer your first question as to what common issues we see across our customer base, I mean, again, database is under heavy load. The production databases, we all know, load is always part of it. There are contention issues, whether it's at the system level, whether it's at the database level. Wrongly configured configurations, or indexes not being used right, or transactions leading to heavy write operations, slow running queries, excessive load. I mean, I can come with a long list, but those are few which could be, to sum it up, proactively, if you're monitoring, managing, and maintaining, so that the database is maintained at optimal level at all times. That's what the remote DBA teams does and helps with.
In my many conversations with customers, a lot of this resonates. So, Mitch, I'll flip it over to you. Can you elaborate here? What are some pain points that you've had in your organization surrounding performance?
Oh, sure, Joshua. Early on, when we first started the project, we basically just did a basic purchase the cores for EDB and just started out on our own. We realized really quick when I started the 5 a.m. cutover that morning that I was supposed to go out of town that afternoon, that there are some things we didn't think about. And we quickly used EDB's professional services at that time to help us get things off the ground more quickly. And then we eventually evolved into subscription service for our production databases with the RDBA services. And at that point, Concha was talking about the monitoring and everything else, and they go through. We have weekly meetings with the team, and we go through any issues we've had, and looking at things that are coming up. They've done for us several instances where we've had queries that she mentioned slow, and in fact, just recently, this past week, they helped us out with a set of queries that were recursive, and were able to cut down the total load time of a certain page by almost 60-70% by looking through that. But it's not just those that we come up with. They are also proactive. They do quarterly checks of our backups. They do periodic checks with PG Badger to go through what our total processing is and look for bottlenecks. And several times they've come up with suggestions with like indexes and things like that we've been able to implement to speed up things. Same thing with the overall configuration, memory usage. As it grows, as the database grows, that memory usage needs to be adjusted as well. So they're able to, with their monitoring and PG Badger and everything. And the best thing for me is I don't have to worry about getting 2 a.m. calls.
Absolutely.
They get it and do it. And as our relationship has evolved, it's to the point now to where the RDBA team knows what they need to call me about and what they don't need to call me about. If they can, the primary objective for both our teams is make sure the database is running. And if something happens with, a back-end service drops off PG pool, one of the databases, the backup databases aren't working properly, replication's not working properly, we've evolved to the point where they know they can fix that without calling me first. So we have a very good relationship, and as it's grown, they know, set up boundaries on each side to where they get it up and running, and then the next morning we discuss what happened. So it's evolved very well and worked very well for me particularly.
Yeah, I mean, again, this relationship has been long, and over the period we have able to. I mean, you remember the restructure we had to do for the architecture, moving from the previous tool to the native logical replication, right? Transitioning that, doing an upgrade, major version upgrades. Now that you are on. I remember it was like 9.6 to 13, right?
Right.
So, not only these are important things, but somehow organizations are more, they fret about it, the major version upgrade. Usually people say that don't fix things that are not broken, but in upgrades, that's not the case. You should always be on the most recent versions. And that's what Mitch has been doing, following it. So this not only significantly improved the replication efficiency, which was problematic for ILSA earlier, reduced maintenance headaches, I'm sure. Additionally, with the fine-tune PG pool configurations to minimize the backend down issues, we have ensured that a more stable and reliable environment is available, and basically simplified management and enhanced reliability, I guess, is most important. So who doesn't want a more stable and performant system, overall system, right?
And I like my sleep.
Yeah, that too, sure.
Hey, Mitch, it sounds like even beyond performance improvements that you gain some process improvements as well. Like you said, hey, they just take these things on and then they debrief with me later. So from a process perspective, it sounds like there have been some benefits there too.
Yes, definitely.
Great. Kanchan, I want to switch gears over to you. What proactive measures can our DBA services take to prevent degradation in Postgres databases?
Okay, so as I said, I mean, I can come up with a list, so maybe we'll take simple examples to talk what kind of production databases, what kind of issues we see, bottlenecks basically in the databases. How do RDBA come into picture for those kind of performance contentions that we see across? I think if I think for the question you asked, 3 things immediately come to my mind. It's more about lock contention, which is usually caused by improper transaction handling that happens, right? Databases are performing always concurrent, conflicting write operation inside of very long-lasting transactions. That's a usual in most of the production databases we see across. RDBA proactively identifies such issues with our lock metrics. I mean, there is a reason we do all this monitoring. This helps us identify these issues, and for fixing such kind of issue, We work with customer, just like Mitch. Mitch is one of the most proactive as well, by the way. He is always responsive whenever we reach out and take initiative.
That's because he gets his sleep, Kanchan. That's why.
Yeah. So again, involves discussing. The fix always involves having the customer on board, discussing and optimize use. How can we optimize the use of transaction, and basically improving the expensive write operations, whether it's insert, update, deletes. That's there. Second, I had briefly talked about the resource contention at OS level. So when we say we monitor your databases, it's not restricted to just database as well as OS monitoring is go hand in hand. Then only we can identify those issues, and resource contention at OS level is equally important. Database under heavy load, and contention perceived, analyzing the OS level metrics, whether it's CPU, memory, IO, proactively identify such. The team, when we see all the monitoring unit checks that we have, identifies what is the problem, whether it's CPU, user, or system IO wait, read write. And then for fixing, um, obviously we look at the most expensive queries, and we need to identify the execution times, and see if there is any potential improvement that we can suggest. Mostly we see bad statistics in the queries, we see missing indexes. So again, resource contention at OS level is another prevalent issue that I see across. And maybe a quick third one I would want to throw in was most performance degradation issues detected at database levels, uh, which are reflected in OS metrics as we talked earlier. But at the PG level, if I'm talking about, these are the cases where contention is caused by Postgres internal implementation mechanisms that may not necessarily starve your OS level resources. So how do we identify that? Again, with such issues showing up, analyzing the metrics like query wait state or column wait events, we are able to nab on them. And then the fix obviously depends on what type of contention is there. So lock manager contention could be having on the partitioning strategy, or the buffer mapping. The contention could be more around the share buffer size and stuff. So to summarize, basically all the three things that I gave you an example about is the RDBA team or the remote DBA team deliverables are around continuous monitoring and tuning the configurations, the resource utilizations, and query plans. Regular performance check is always necessary and help identify potential issues which are identified much earlier in the cycle, so they don't impact the production system. And obviously, last but not the least, all the best practices for the database maintenance are proactively scheduled and done at cadence, like vacuuming or indexing or those kind of things are automatically taken care of. I think Mitch was mentioning about this earlier. So um, those are the proactive measures that team come up with, and you don't have to worry about it.
Mitch, anything she might have missed? Do you think she has it well covered there?
She covered it pretty well. In our situation, the way our database was developed, it actually wasn't really developed. It was a forklift from an SVN MySQL repository into Postgres. So it's been a challenge for us and the RDBA team, because it's not really a true traditional relational database. So some of the things that they would normally rely on in metrics thing, they've had to come up with unique ways to look at what we're doing and help us. And in addition, we have a couple of layers of middleware that create our queries for us. So we have to there's certain things we can't. You can say, well, it's easy to say, well, just redo your query. Well, we don't have that option. So the RDBA team has done a good job of helping us dig into more of the things that we can work with, like on the database side, the memory usage, the vacuuming, the indexing, especially for what we can index within our database to help speed up our operations and also help with content. And we've had to grow vertically with adding more database servers behind PG Pool, and they've helped us on both the PG Pool side for load balancing and spreading the load across those different servers so that we can maintain during session when, we're a government agency, we're, supposed to be transparent. If a person clicks on a link to look at a bill and it takes what they would think an excessive amount of time, then they start wondering, well, why, what's not being transparent? What's not shown? Why are they hiding stuff from us? So, we rely on them and to make sure we keep that transparency to the constituency, the constabulary outside within Indiana, the whole state of Indiana for us.
Great, thank you. You mentioned being a government agency. So the next topic we're going to talk about is compliance and data security. Let's talk about it twofold. One, how has RDBA supported your organization in regard to compliance and data security, but also anything that might have held you back or questions that you had around RDBA that you'd want to address for maybe some prospective customers who are interested in the service but worried about security and compliance?
From a compliance standpoint, fortunately, we don't have that many restrictions as far as that, no HIPAA, anything like that from our database standpoint. The biggest thing we had was working with the RDBA team to be able to access and get what they need through our security policies as they have grown throughout the years. We have a VPN set up, and it's evolved where they've had to change their practices to get to our systems, and they've been very, very amenable to changing what they were doing in order to comply to what we needed from a security standpoint, and them being able to get in and access and work on the machines and get their monitoring data.
Okay, great. Kanchan, you want to add anything around the security?
Yeah, I think you touched a good point there. For remote DBA services, that's an utmost important and prioritized requirement because again, we need access to the database, and then we need the monitoring solution to be deployed. So those are prerequisites, and we have to adhere to industry standard security best practices and compliance regulations. There are organizations where in the customer base, the remote DBA customer base, that have stringent requirements, and the key security features obviously include data isolation, granular access through role-based access control, cluster level specific permissions, encryption in transit, encryption at rest, and audit logging, right? Again, these are just to name a few. Remote DBA service at EDB is SOC 2 Type 2 certified and compliant now. SOC 2 obviously is a security framework that specifies how organization should safeguard the customer data, and we adhere to all these standards. Additionally, I think it's more important how the team follows or the established practices and policies, which are continually refined while maintaining appropriate segregation of duties. That's very important. The remote DBA team also maintains sound and auditable processes pertaining to the delivery of services. And the guidelines specifically that we follow, because the question was more around the security and how data is being kept secure, right? So data retention as well as data disposal is equally important, right? So and when I say data, it categorizes between internal data, customer data, audit logs, and how data disposal happens at a set duration. Accessing customer data that the team requires, or transferring the data basically, and then storing the customer data. So guidelines around that data handling is in place and is continuously monitored and audited basically. Monitoring, again, it's one of the prerequisite for our delivery. So monitoring data collection that remote DBA team has, make sure it's always just the metadata. User data never comes into picture. So all these things we have already put together, and then from internal perspective for us, as the remote DBA team, our authentication to the servers or the RDBA review board that we have in place, change management, access control reviews, all these review board responsibility falls into it. So all in all, we've made sure we've built that framework, and that's being followed. So automatically takes care of the data security aspect of the customer.
Yeah, speaking from conversations that I've had with customers, a lot of times they say, Josh, we got to trust somebody with our data, whether we hire somebody as an individual or we use an organization like EDB. And we believe that EDB will have more strict framework, more strict guidelines in ensuring that people are adhering to security and compliance best practices because, quite frankly, EDB has more to lose than an individual. That's what I'm told. So it's interesting to hear Mitch's take as well as what you added, Kanchan, because the perception could be, oh, it's risky, but I actually see a lot of customers saying it's risky to go with an individual versus an organization who's constantly hammering on best practices around these topics. Moving on to the next question. So this is a big one, right? This is one that a lot of customers focus on and every organization in the world focuses on. Let's talk about cost savings. We often hear positive feedback around RDBA because it's a lever for cost savings in organizations. So Kanchan, can you elaborate on some of those cost benefits? What are you hearing from different organizations? And then Mitch, you can chime in as well in terms of what you've seen from a cost perspective.
Sure. Again, I think building a team we all are constantly on. I mean, businesses operate 24/7 by 365, right? So all the support teams or the DBAs need to be available. So somebody like Mitch doesn't have to get up at 4 a.m. So that's a given. So I see the cost saving perspective from a direct saving that can be availed with the remote DBA services, and then there are some indirect savings we can talk about. As I said earlier, hiring for the needs of 24/7 by 365 database needs that arise, in-house DBAs. Uh, I mean, if we need to add to the team, the cost gets significantly higher. So augmentation that happens with the remote DBA team basically allows the customer team to focus on the new initiatives, new project, whatever is coming up. Management and upkeep of database is handled by the remote DBA team. So basically, no operational burden remains on the customer. Systems are maintained at optimal performance at all times, basically leads to better user experience, because obviously optimal performance for the system helps better better experience for not only for the teams but also for the customer, which is baseline nowadays. I mean, if your site is slow or the database is not responding, people don't have that much patience to wait till the page is getting loaded. So it has to be instant, quick. Monitoring, maintenance is already covered as we discussed earlier. So no additional tools, no additional any other things need to be taken care of. It's part of the service. Doesn't you don't have to spend anything. So that's another saving. And again, with the from day one, where Postgres certified DBAs are there to help you, the expertise is right there. That reduces significantly the deployment times for our customers. I mean, and always the sanity of architecture, whether it's always being performed, whether we see any gaps, that's being proactively communicated and taken care of. So those are direct savings from the service perspective. And just to take a step back, and how does that tune in into the indirect savings? Obviously, reduce downtimes and maintenance windows um, who doesn't need it, right? I mean, we all talk about 5 nines, so we don't like downtimes at all. So any reduction there in the maintenance windows, it's always needed and required. It's like baseline now. Longer your application functions, the more business you do, or you have to be up and running at all times. So that's another indirect way of looking at things. And obviously, in-house DBAs, in-house teams can contribute to new projects, allows for faster feature rollout, and basically keep the organization agile, right? I mean, we all have to continuously reinvent and do things and create new work on the new tech stack. So these are from my perspective how there are various direct saving that leads to some of the indirect savings with the remote DBA service in place. What do you think, Mitch?
I can attest a lot of that with the RDBA team. When, like I said, my sleep. If we needed to do what the RDBA team is, we would have to hire at least 2 to 3 more people, and mainly Postgres experts in order to do what we have. And those people don't come cheap. It's not cheap to learn all that stuff. Believe me, I know. I've gone through some of the classes, and I consider this on the indirect side. The RDBA team is not just focused on the databases themselves. We have a Barman server for our backups. We have a PIM server, a Postgres enterprise management server for our internal looking at things. We also have a couple PG pool servers that are running. And then on top of that, within the database structure itself, the enterprise failover manager, they maintain all that for me. And so it's I stay involved with it, when they do upgrades. I'm one of those hands-on type people because I like learning what they're doing, so that if something breaks, I can fix it quickly. If it needs, more than just me doing some quick things on it, then I contact the RDBA team, and they're on it as well. And like I said, they do quarterly check, things I don't have to worry about. Quarterly checks of our backups to make sure the integrity of the backup is being maintained. And just the 24/7 monitoring. There's no way with my other duties there at OTS to be able to sit and monitor and respond to things as quickly that happen. That we rely on the RDBA team. So just from those overall, to me, peace of mind is a very tangible expense. And since I have a good peace of mind that they are covering stuff and working on those things that I don't have to worry about day to day. So and like I said, it's not just the database. They go way beyond that with their services in helping us with the other parts and pieces that keep the whole structure together.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned 2 or 3 resources, and I get into this conversation very often. It's never 2 or 3, because again, if you think about 24/7 by 365, you have to take into the holidays, you have to make sure at all times people are present, that the always on model is always much bigger, right? It's not just 2 or 3 people who can support your couple of databases. And I think you brought a very important point. When I say instances or database, I am referring to not just the Postgres server, but also the ecosystem around it. So what tools are entering, how those are being also by default taken care by the remote DBA team. Because you may be an expert on the Postgres side, but you may not have detailed expertise or sufficient knowledge around failover manager or Barman or PG pool. I mean, there are so many things one can always keep up to date or upskill yourself. But there are multiple things that others are working on and need to be aware of. So I think that's a good one. Yep.
And you can imagine leading a sales organization, I get into some conversations around cost savings, right? Quite a bit. But I wanted to share some more of the customer viewpoint. When I have some of these conversations, when it comes to our DBA, it's not a tough conversation. Customers actually sell me on it a lot of times because I want to walk through the process and understand, what kind of value are you seeing from EDB? And so some customers say, Josh, I break it down this granular. I've got to find somebody, interview them for a couple months, do the background checks. I have to insure the person that I want to hire. That costs money. We have to train the person. If they're out sick, if they're on holiday, I'm still paying that person. Should they quit in 3 months? Now I just invested all that money and it's gone. By the way, that person works 40 to 50 hours a week. They're not a 24/7 support service. And quite frankly, they're more expensive. And when they look at our DBA is very affordable to a lot of customers versus the alternative of hiring an expert or two. You're getting a full team for much more value for a lot less cost. So this is what they tell me. So I'm like, all right, if you're saying this, then you're a customer. There's validity here. I'm not trying to sell you. You're selling me.
Yeah, and I think that's sorry. Go ahead.
Also, I want to relate a story with our situation. We're also unique in a way where the Indiana legislator is a part-time legislator. They are actually in session from January through either March or April. So we were in the situation of, okay, do we really have to pay for complete RDBA support when we're actually, we ramp down at the end of session. So we basically, turn off several of the servers. So you guys worked with us to say, okay, well, we'll contract this to where you'll pay for these many during this time. And then when that load goes down and we shut those databases out of, or pull those out of primary use, you don't monitor them, so we don't pay for the services. So EDBA has been really good about working with us on that cost model to, when we don't need the service, to be able to save that money as well.
Great. Kanchan, you had something as well?
No, I was saying, I mean, the staff point that we were talking about, I think we as a team are able to deliver this because we follow the swarming model, right? There is a tech lead, a designated person assigned to your account who, as Mitch mentioned earlier, helps you walk through what is the prerequisite, does weekly cadence calls, discusses projects, suggests few things, schedule multiple activities, and then basically all the proactive work is taken care by the engineers across the shift who work, right? So the swarming model helps us be cost competitive is what I would like to add, and that has been working really well for all our customers and obviously for us.
Yeah. One last value add I wanted to tack on here in the conversation is that a lot of customers love the fact that the RDBA team interacts with the other teams at EDB. So some of my customers who are using our other products, tools, or even just getting support from us, guess what? They're talking with customer success. They're talking with sales. They're talking with the solutions engineers. They're talking with product. It's a bigger ecosystem than even just the support that you're getting from the RDBA team. You're getting support from EDB, who is, again, the Postgres company. We are the organization that pumps more into Postgres than anyone else. So you're getting all of us, not just that team at the end of the day. So it's another benefit that customers tend to enjoy is, oh yeah, no, I talked to the person on that team who was having that issue. We threw it over to product, or we threw it over to support. We're working on it for future runs. Everybody's working together to ensure our customers are successful. At the end of the day, that's what we care about. All right, we've got a question. Oh, go ahead, Mitch.
We've run across several. We've actually, found several features. I'll use that term instead of bug. But in some of the products, because a lot of this is fed from the open source community. So there are things that can creep in, and that we actually were able to. We helped with, we had a problem. It turned out to be a bug in PG Pool, and was able to pass that back to the RDBA team, who passed it back into the development folks, and they said, "Wow, this is a big problem." And they worked, and we were able to do workarounds to get us going on what we needed because of that.
Great. No, it's a great real world example of what I was talking about. Thank you, Mitch. We do have some questions. I want to make sure we leave some time for that. So we'll jump into the first one, and we'll make this a jump ball. Both of you can jump in and speak to it. But does RDBA delivery have any bound SLAs?
Yes, RDBA has service level objectives that we deliver. So SLOs, absolutely. The RDBA service maps to the severity of the two resolution goals. So let me break it down. When I say severities, the usual severities is SEV 1, SEV 2, SEV 3, SEV 4. We all are aware of SEV 1, obviously catastrophic event where we are not able to function. I mean, the customer systems are down and not functioning at all. SEV 2 is more around that software is operational, but certain major functions or is not performing, or there is degradation there, and or there is a bug that is identified with, and no workaround is available. SEV 3 is more around minor functions of the software, and then SEV 4 is around documentation. So tying it back, we have resolution goals per severities, right? And the service level objectives are for both. How do we have initial response? So initial response for SEV 1, SEV 2, SEV 3 is 15 minutes for the remote DBA team, and for SEV 1, it's for SEV 4, it's for a day, because it's mostly around documentation changes or some feature requests that needs to be added. Nice to have kind of things. In addition to the initial response, there is also something called as remedy SLOs that we provide, right? So remedy SLO for SEV 1 is 6 hours, for SEV 2 is 36 hours, for SEV 3 is 72. And obviously, the remedy for documentation changes and SEV 4 doesn't apply. So those are our resolution remedy goals that we adhere to. And we have been doing pretty well. I mean, we track our SLO metrics, and we are always in the higher 95 plus range on both, not only the initial response, but also on the remedy front. And doesn't matter. I mean, you can open as number of incidents as there are. So we don't restrict the number of incidents that can be opened. We are open for any of those. Anything you want to add, Mitch?
You guys just do the work and get it done. Keep my stuff going. So I'm happy with it. Excuse me. My SLA is basically get it back running as fast as possible. And I've never had any issues with somebody saying, well, that's not really covered on what we need you to do. Or I've never had the RDBA team balk at it's not in our purview. It's not in our, our statement of work. Afterwards we may discuss, well, this really wasn't quite what we specialize in. So for better response, you might want to go this route. But when there's an issue, the RDBA team is there. It's not, there's no balking on statement of work or anything like that.
Great. We got another one here. Mitch, I think I'll ask you this one. What ways can I engage with EDB's RDBA team? So how does the communication look like from your end with our RDBA team?
From my end, it's probably overwhelming for them at times. Besides the support portal that they have up, which has evolved tremendously over the last 6 years since I've been involved with them, it's an excellent source for knowledge base. That's where I do tickets. It has complete history, has all of our the customer information I need to know if I'm talking to somebody from sales. What's your sales number, how many contract, when's your contract up, it has when's your subscriptions up, it has all that information. And of course there's email that we contact the team with, but the most important one I use is via Slack. We have Slack channels that are direct to Chris, our technical lead, and also the team itself. And when she was talking about the swarm mentality that the team is, there's at least 28 people in that list that get information that can chime in and work on stuff. And so when I post something in Slack that, hey, I'm seeing this, what are you guys seeing? Immediately I get a response from somebody on the team about that, and they're good about notifying us when the team changes. There have been, there's rollovers in every organization, and whenever there's somebody leaving, I get an email from Chris saying this person has left the team in case there's some things we need to change in our back end policy, and here's some new people, so and that they'll be joining the team, and usually on one of the weekly meetings after they've joined, they are brought up and introduced personally to me. So there's nothing bad about the community. There's lots of ways.
Yeah, and the usual phone, you pick up the phone and call us. That option is always available.
Right.
We have dedicated Slack channels between the DBA team and any of our customers. So secured channel of communication, whether it's during incident, whether it's during scheduling of activities, the flow, we all are used to the IM part of it now, right? Specifically after the pandemic. So I think that helps, and the peace of mind that Mitch was saying. So whether there is a handoff from one person to other on the customer side, whereas there is a handoff from any of our engineers who are there, the Slack or IM option is always there. You can always pick up the phone, but our main repository is the customer portal, right? Because again, everything is documented, whether it's the proactive work. So the run books are right there, that this work was done, this is how it's done. And then all the account information that can be leveraged from the customer side. Or from Mitch's front, again, there are people from your organization that log in and report issues via the portal as well, right? So absolutely.
Yeah, when she was talking about the rollover of people, it's like with the one I mentioned about the indexes, that went through, almost 24, 48 hours. And I saw comments from people within our Slack channel that would say, okay, so-and-so, I'm about to take off, but so-and-so is continuing on with the problem. So I knew it was continually being looked at, and they're good about, which I'm not as good about, taking what has been talked about in Slack and posting it into the tickets too. So there is that record on that side as well, not just the Slack side, but also from the within the ticket itself of everything that went on between the conversations.
Kanchan, something I appreciate personally, makes my life easier, and I know the customers do as well, is how involved you get. I just wanted to give you a plug as well, that you're not out in the background somewhere just managing teams. You get at the ground level. You know people like Mitch. You speak with our customers. You get very involved. So just even the exposure top to bottom in the organization ensures no one gets left behind.
No, absolutely. I mean, during onboarding itself, we share. Most of the customers don't need our escalation pathway, but we are very transparent about it. We make sure that they know ways of communication. They know they have the escalation path at their fingertips. They know our SLO commitments, what we are looking for. In addition to what all deliverables are there from the DBA team, because transparency and trust is what we have built over the period. I mean, we are delivering this service for almost 15 years now, so it's all part of our regular deliverables.
And I appreciate, I'll get, whenever that escalation path changes or people change in it, I get a nice PowerPoint presentation from Chris explaining all the different levels, and I'm able to, I know who I need to talk to. I know how to get a hold of people. I'm doing it all the time. But upper management or other people in other parts of our organization that may not, have that daily contact with the RDBA folks, that gives them a way, and I don't have to worry about somebody calling me saying, who do I contact, or this or that. So I can give the management and other people on the team that escalation. So in the event that they need to do contact, they have that ability.
It's funny you guys mentioned escalation path, because that was going to be one of the questions, is what does that look like? It sounds like it looks like whatever is best. Is that fair to say?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, escalation path in RDBA hierarchy is also shared. And then from your side, if there is any specific requirement from the customer front, absolutely. And all this is in addition to the um, to the quarterly reviews. So the tech lead assigned to the account make sure that within this quarter, what have we done? What led to what changes? No news is good news, but that no news is because this is the background work that happened, right? So the reviews are part of the regular activities. And in fact, now we have gone a step ahead and provided a self-service portal for most engaged customers contacts like Mitch. They can actually go download the report and see that, okay, this database instance at this particular point in time, they can drill it down, they can go into the database insights, they can go into various reports that are available across various time frames, whether it's daily, whether it's weekly, whether it's quarterly. So uh, customers can use this where they are presenting internally to other teams, or trying to show to the management, their management. It's all at their fingertips. We believe in transparency, as I said earlier, and we like and make sure everything is shared. So nothing. We don't. We comply with that.
That's what I meant about the evolving support portal. Not just the RDBA team, but to me, all of EDB is doing what they can to do more and more transparency. And she was talking about those reports. I know Chris was very happy when I could get a hold of myself, because I would be contacting Chris. So what's the report look like? And he'd have to email me stuff. So it like took the pressure off of him, not having to email me those things, and I can go look at them when I need to.
Yeah, you just touched on something else that the next question was going to hit on. So when it comes to proactive work, someone's asking, is that scheduled without my knowledge? What does that look like?
Anything RDBA team does, I am notified first. From a proactive standpoint, when it's time for them to do the log reviews with PG Badger, there's a ticket open saying we need to do this. Give us a time to adjust the log files so they support the PG Badger process. Same thing with the backup review. They say we need a system to put the backup on so we can do a comparison of the backup. And our relationship is to the point where they pop it out and say, do what we did last time, we're all good. So we've evolved with our relationship with RDBA folks, that they know. Now, like I said, when it comes to keeping the database up, our agreement is get it up, and then we'll talk about what else needs to be done later on when everybody's up and awake and able to function. And unless it's a major problem, back end system being down, they contact me about that. But if it's just with a database dropping out of PG pool, one of the replication servers not acting right, they know that I want things working, and waiting for me to say, okay, do it, is downtime we don't want.
Right. And I think, yes, that's a general rule we follow. I mean, as Mitch said, over the period, we have learned, we have the historical reference where we know which actions need to be taken care of. But somebody new who is being onboarded, it's more around what consensus are built between the two parties. So the tech lead who is assigned, as well as what the customer want. Because again, there are various processes on the customer front also. They might have a change management process. They might need some approvals on their side. So it's more around just the way we share our escalation list. We also ask that, okay, in an emergency, if you are not available, then what's your chain of command there, right? How do we make sure, or is it that these are the list of items you want to take care of, whether you're responding, or you want us to make sure your approval is required. So it's more about how the consensus are established, Josh.
And part of it was my learning the RDBA team and a trust factor being built, knowing that, okay, they are going to do the right thing. Early on in it, okay, I got these bunch of people that are looking at our database doing things. They say they're trained. Are they? They've proven it. So over the years, as the relationship has grown, the trust factor is higher, and things that they can do, and I know they're not going to totally wipe out my database from very simplistic standpoint example, but they've proven the expertise.
If they wipe it out, it's their responsibility to make it up and running as soon as
That's
possible.
another reason I like having the RDBA team, because if they mess something up, they have to fix it.
I need the RDBA team to teach my kids to clean up after their mess at home.
Oh.
I don't think anybody can teach kids to do that. I've 4 boys and lots of grandkids. They still don't do it. So
we're coming down to the wire. I wanted to ask a question, and this is a simple one, but I feel like there are probably people tuning in on this webinar who are saying maybe this is for me, maybe not. Kanchan, who's RDBA for? What's an ideal profile or candidate company for RDBA? Who should be leveraging this service?
Everyone. I mean, again, we all want to do more with less, right? And with so many things changing on the technology front, a lot of things happening. I think working, if your organization's people are focused on the new initiatives or something that you want to make it through, why burden them with the operational support? You want your database up and running at optimal speed at all times. So I wouldn't pick one case. I think it's for everybody who wants their Postgres database and its ecosystem always on, running at optimal speed, following all the best practices, and being aware of all the advances that are coming automatically as part of EDB, as part of the Postgres group, right?
I fully agree. That's to me, that's they handled everything for us. Okay, Josh, I got a quick softball question for you. How well did you pay attention to Kanchan's description of my former database experiences?
Not at all. My palms are sweaty. This is the first webinar that I've ever hosted.
No, she listed it out at the beginning of the webinar. There's one database she mentioned which has a direct link to Postgres. And I'm dating myself with this too.
You tell me, Mitch. Tell everybody.
Ingress. Ingress is the parent, basically the parent of Postgres. It evolved into Postgres.
Gotcha. So, you know what? I'll date myself. I had an Apple IIc computer back in the day. How about that?
I could go back further, but I'm not going.
No, please don't.
Yeah, I've real quick. RDBA services have helped us out a lot. They've saved us on several occasions when things were not working properly. If you don't have the manpower, or you don't want to spend the money on the manpower, they have the services available, and it, like I said, it's been a lifesaver for us.
And not only the expertise, the deployment is like from day one you get the experts, so you don't have to invest in that learning curve. So I think that's another advantage I keep seeing day in, day out.
Yeah, so what we talked about today: consistency, reliability, redundancy, affordability, and expertise. You'll get that on the RDBA team with EDB. I just want to say thank you so much to Kanchan and Mitch for today's discussion. Folks, if you look at your screen, there's a QR code. There's also a URL on the bottom left there. Visit us, talk to us, have a conversation with Kanchan and myself, or maybe even Mitch, and learn more about RDBA. We can help you. We've been helping customers for the last 20 years. We're here to support you so that you see value, you achieve what you're looking to achieve with Postgres, the world's most loved database. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.